I want to tell you about the following people. A good friend of mine, a scholar who had been a professor of computer science and history after being the co-valedictorian of his high school class, an animal lover who was extremely kind and loving to his cats, a champion debater in a national contest, a candidate for mayor of a mid-sized U.S. city, and a left-wing socialist who marched on the streets against greed and racism, and who wrote for progressive newspapers and for human events. All these people I've described were one person, Ike Thacker. His full name was Isaac Marion Thacker IV, and he meant all the things to me that I have described here. He died in November 2023 at age 66 in a vehicle accident. The fact that he preferred going by that formal name in his byline indicates a lot of devotion to his family lineage. Yes, he was the fourth Ike Thacker. He was also very devoted to his immediate family. He never missed his niece's cross country or soccer matches. He took me to see them perform a few times. He was very close to his brother and sister and his mother. Ike was brilliant. He had been a champion debater in a national contest when he was a teenager. After getting 2 bachelor's degrees and a master's, he was accepted at Baylor University Law School, but changed his plans to go into academia and taught computer science and history courses at Georgia State University in Atlanta. He was very happy there. He loved being close to, the Major League Baseball scene. He loved the city of Atlanta, and he loved what he did for a living. This was back in the 1980s. Also, during that period, Ike worked for the school lunch program of the federal government. He was a field representative going to small towns, rural areas in Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia, making sure the program was being properly implemented. And that bespeaks Ike's altruism. He was very much a believer that we are put in this world to help each other. He didn't believe in an economic system that pits people against people. He thought our destiny was to work together, not necessarily in an absolutist, statist way, but that the economic exchange should be based on positive feelings toward each other and trust. And for that reason, he was very interested in and knowledgeable about Marxism. Ike wrote articles, commentaries, and book reviews for a monthly newspaper called Forsooth, which I was the editor of. It was published by the Louisville, Kentucky chapter of the Fellowship of Reconciliation. That's where the letters FOR came in. And the whole name Forsooth means in truth or in a truthful spirit. Ike was a regular writer and contributor for the paper, and I would tend to edit the stories sometimes in the very same apartment because there was a short while we shared an apartment. And that tells you something about Ike, too, because I had been economically flat on my back because of an illness. I had an outbreak of anemia. And Ike showed then that he was the best friend I ever had and the best friend anyone could have. Every day he would make runs to the grocery for me to get me the amount of food I needed to stay alive because I was bedridden for about 4 weeks. And I had had very limited time off with pay at the place I was working then. And Ike stepped in to help me get back on my feet financially and put me up until I could afford a new apartment on my own. I recovered from the anemia pretty quickly, but the anxiety problems of various sorts still crop up in life, and Ike was always the person who was the best listener and the most caring person in episodes like that. And Ike knew about anxiety problems on his own. After his career successes in Atlanta during the 1990s, he told me that he had had a series of emotional, psychological problems flare up. and he was unable to continue in his career, and he went on disability and lived a frugal life. Ike truly was the finest friend. But if you've watched the Andy Griffith Show, you know that the finest and most loyal friend a person could ever have can also drive you crazy at times. Ike and I had friction between us at points. Sometimes it was over my editing of his stories. Sometimes it was just over being cooped up too much. We had periods where we went our separate ways, but we would still run into each other from time to time on the bus or elsewhere. But I got the surprise of my life when I voted in Louisville's local elections several years back. I looked down on the ballot, and there it was, Isaac Marion Thacker IV. There might be another Ike Thacker around, but I don't think there was anybody else who had that full name. Yes, my friend Ike was running for mayor. That was the first of 3 or 4 times he sought the city of Louisville's highest office, and each time he started to get more attention to his cause. He ran on egalitarianism, working to make housing affordable, to end the economic inequality, to fight crime using restorative justice methods. Ike's family members still living in this area were quite conservative, and I never exactly knew how they felt about his running for mayor, especially on such a far left platform. But I got a pleasant surprise when I attended Ike's memorial service in late 2023. His brother, a person I had met once or twice, and that I had heard Ike involved in passionate political arguments with on the telephone more times than that, was wearing a Ike Thacker badge. Ike had made badges bearing the phrase, "I like Ike," which was perfect for his campaign. And I think since Eisenhower's presidential campaigns were a long time ago, I think any copyright concerns had expired. But it was a delight to see that Ike's brother, Eric, was very proud of his brother for running for office and very proud of the things he stood for. Eric delivered the eulogy and was glowing about Ike's devotion to a better world where people are treated justly. It let me give a farewell to Ike at the same time as I gained an understanding of how close his family were and how people in your family who may have disagreements still love you and respect you. At the very same time as I went through a sad farewell to my friend, I also got an uplifting feeling by that. And I'm going to end this with Ike's own words. This was during one of his campaigns for mayor, a presentation on a Louisville television station about how he would deal with the problem of crime in the city.
Main thing that I would do to deal with violent crime in Louisville is to increase economic opportunity. That's the first step. Increase economic opportunity, and I believe that the $15 an hour minimum wage would go a long way towards doing that. That would be the first step. Summer jobs for youth, things to do after school for youth so that they do not go out and commit crimes. We know that the youth are the most likely to commit crimes, and a lot of the reason that they do that is they simply have nothing to do in the afternoons and on the weekends.
Wise words to remember you by, Ike. Farewell, my friend.